President Obama made news on that stimulus today, rolling out a, quote, roadmap of recovery. Now, what this does is really speed up all that stimulus spending. So over the next 89 days, he says he's going to create or save 600,000 jobs. Now, the stimulus program has come under fire because only 5.6% of the $787 billion program has actually been paid out. So is the president's attempt to jumpstart the program progress or not? Here now, Christian Weller, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress and associate professor of public policy at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and Dan Mitchell, senior fellow at the Cato Institute. All right, guys, good to have you both back.
Good to be here, Dan.
Dan, at the top of the program, we said we were talking about one of the things he said. The first 100 days since it was signed, the administration said that they created or saved 150,000 jobs. They say with this quote-unquote speed up of the spending over the next, and by my count, they only have 89 days left, they're going to do 600,000 jobs saved or created. Is that possible?
Well, first, let's get the funny math out of the way. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have lost more than 1 million jobs since the so-called stimulus, really the pork barrel spending bill, was signed into law. Making government bigger is not a recipe for economic growth, and to claim that you can somehow magically transfer a 1 million job loss into a 150,000 job gain, I might as well say I'm 7 foot tall and I'm in the NBA Finals.
Well, they're
I
just
almost
saying,
feel sorry for.
Aren't they saying it would have been 1.15 million jobs lost, right? They're saying they saved. Just to try to keep it fair.
That's what they're saying,
yep.
But that's a completely fuzzy bit of math. That's sort of like saying if we go into another Great Depression, oh, it would have been worse, other than our policy. There's no standard, there's no basis for logical discussion when you can start using make-believe numbers as a benchmark for your comparison. And that's why the key thing to focus on is why would we think that wasting money even faster is a recipe for growth? If that was true,
jump in there,
France
Christian.
would be an
let me jump
dynamo.
in. I mean, for economic policy, it is common practice to argue the counterfactual, and we have a whole body of economic research literature, and in particular, you look at the numbers here. You can see that for the last 3 months, the stimulus has been working. Tax cuts and unemployment insurance benefits and other things have certainly helped those struggling the most, people who have lost their jobs in this economy and whose income has gone down. If you look at the numbers between disposable income and actual income, the disposable income has grown much faster than actual income, and that's a result of the tax cuts and the spending on unemployment insurance. That has translated into some positive news that we now call the green shoots. In terms of spending on consumer spending, and that ultimately has started to send some signals on investment spending. So clearly there's something going in the right direction, and that can be directly traced back to the start of the stimulus package. So I think at this point, it's what the Obama administration is saying is exactly the right thing. We can't take our eye off the ball, and the ball in this case is jobs, 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 because that's exactly what we did in 2001. We took our eye off the ball, and we ultimately had a job loss recovery.
Dan, here's something, though, and I know you would take issue with a lot of what Christian just said, but assuming that everything that he said is right, all the progress we've made is only by spending 5.6% of the nearly $800 billion. So why don't we save the rest and not spend it?
Well, first, I'm going to go to Christian when I need a new suit made, because he's a great tailor. He just turned a sow's ear into a silk purse. We have had bad news for the last several years because Bush was a big government interventionist, and now Obama is continuing Bush's failed policies of making government bigger. And the president's announcement this morning that we're going to waste more money faster strikes me as the exact opposite of what we should be doing. And I've said on this program many times, we should be copying Hong Kong, not France. We should be copying the countries that are doing it right, making government smaller, countries that are growing faster.
We're not some Chinese island. We are the largest and richest country in the world. And at this point, we have to deal with a massive recession that followed years and years of the conservative economic policies that Dan is advocating. Lower taxes, less regulation, and then that ultimately what caused the problem. There's no link here between the spending and the recession. And what you're looking now at the economic stimulus package, and you've listened to the proposals that Vice President Biden and Obama have laid out today, it is clear that these are very targeted temporary measures meant to create as many jobs where they are needed in the recession. And
Hold
I think
on one
that's
second here, Dan, before you jump in. I just want to put up a screen here of some of what they're going to be doing, this so-called speed up. They're going to be beginning projects in 107 national parks. New cars, restoring trails, things like that, and they're going to be creating 125,000 summer youth jobs. Dan, do you think there is any merit in this? I mean, you know, forget that we want our parks to look better. I'm talking big economic stimulus in doing this summer and creating 125,000 summer youth jobs. Does that do anything for us in the fall?
No, and this really summarizes the difference between my view and Christian's view. Christian defines success by having more people dependent on government. I define success by having government be smaller so more resources are in the productive sector of the economy. We don't want make-work government jobs. We don't want to make the Federal Department of Education bigger. If we go back in history and look at federal government involvement in education, more government leads to falling test scores. We should be getting rid of the Department of Education. We have gone way off the right path under Bush and Obama with their big government policies.
Getting rid of the education?
The education area is exactly a good example. 22 states have already cut their education budgets, and that's before they start cutting their police and firefighters, and a number of states are doing that already. So the states are needing some help here to get through the tough times to maintain the education level. The youth jobs, I mean, we have at this point a youth unemployment rate of 22.7%. We clearly need to do something to make sure that young people have some education, get some job training skills, that when the economy gets going again, that they can actually jump into the labor market and get good jobs and have a real career in the labor market.
And really, the
private sector is not doing this, and at this point, the government sector is still the only one that can handle what we need to help the labor market and the job market.
Before anything comes out of your mouth, let me just, before we go, get you to quickly say something, because this is going to set up a conversation the three of us will have down the line. In a sentence, your rationale for getting rid of the Department of Education altogether is?
Because the federal government does a bad job. It's a payoff to the teacher unions. We need choice and decentralization, not monopoly and bigger government.
Well, that's a discussion for a different time.
Yes, it is,
which
is exactly why I'm going to end the segment right here on that. And then when you come back, the two of you will get to talk about it. Christian and Dan, thanks. Always good to have both of you with us.